Okay, so now you have the character you want to model. You got a picture of it. Hopefully it's something original that hasn't been done before. It might be from your favorite artist. Um, we are going to completely disregard topology. On our first character, on our human, we started with being really careful about topology, keeping it clean, nice topology flow. Now we're going to completely disregard all that. And we're going to start with the creative side instead. So that's more of the traditional pipeline. This is more of the newer pipeline. So if you go to the light box and click on the default project here, you just get a sphere, and you've probably seen a lot of videos on YouTube about people starting with just a sphere. So you can sculpt in here and create your base mesh. The problem you will run into is if I turn on the line fill, and let's say you wanted to move something. Let me just do brush, move, topological, and make the brush bigger. The problem you'll run into is because you're stretching the polygons, as you can see in here, the polygons, you see the points of it is what you're actually moving, and there's no points in between these polygons. So usually you want a nice evenly spaced polymesh, but as soon as you start stretching it too much, you get these gaps where there's no points in the middle where you couldn't sculpt detail in there. So if I go back to the brush, to the standard, and I make it really small, and I try to sculpt on the middle of those points, I'm gonna get something really weird. I'm missing points in there. So yeah, you could subdivide it like we did our first model. So but you're gonna keep running into that problem. The polygons are gonna subdivide in the direction they're going. So if I do geometry and divide and divide again, I'm getting more divisions, but they're still going in that direction. So let me turn this off and back on. You can see the points are also stretched out anyway. The polygons are not square, they're still stretched out. So that problem kind of perpetuates itself, so you get weird distortion like this when you're sculpting. So how do you solve that? When you want to be free and create like with clay, that's when we turn on dynamic topology. So if you look on geometry here, there is Dynamesh, or sorry, Dynamesh. And now if I try to add details, so let's say I want to use the snake hook to pull something out of my sphere here. So let's do S snake hook, there it is. It says it works better when Sculptris Pro is turned on, so we'll turn it on. Sculptris Pro is this little sphere up here. So you turn it on, and now I make my brush bigger. If I pull with it, you'll see it's triangulating the mesh. And actually I can pull it way far, and it's adding more polygons to it. So it's doing the opposite that the other one. Instead of stretching polygons, it's adding triangles in this case, which usually you don't want triangles, but we're not going to worry about topology at all right now. We're going to worry about that later. So this is a good way to not worry about topology and sculpt freely and create things. Now I have this, I can go brush. Let's say we want to inflate it to make it thicker. So I think inflat, there it is. So I can make it bigger, right? And I can sculpt a shape. And you can see it's dynamically adding topology to it, triangles. And we'll clean those later on, but this way you don't have to worry about topology at all. So when we're done, we'll worry about topology flow, loops, edge loops, and all that, but we want to be as creative and as free as possible. So this is another method you can create your base mesh. If you notice that it's missing polygons, let's say you stretch this. Well, let me see. Brush, snake hook, and the polygons are looking kind of weird. You can always hold control and drag outside your mesh, and you'll see it goes back to quads, which is pretty fantastic, I guess. So you don't have any triangles anymore. It goes all back to quads. So you can do this to create your mesh. It's really freeing from the worries of topology, you know. But we'll still have to do some cleanup at the end. You know, the loops are not quite perfect. They don't quite go out of the joints here. They don't loop around all the way. But we will worry about that later. There's an easy way to fix it too. So this is the one method to create your base mesh. I'll show you a couple more.